to another episode of Fancast. We're here. This is the biggest episode of the year. It doesn't get much bigger than this. Grand Final on tomorrow. Brisbane Lions, Collingwood Magpies, Stuff the Pies. It's your boy Joe, and it's a massive episode. Of course, we've got
Big J. How you doing?
Doing well. Swizz.
Oh, yeah, mate. I like the facts straight off there. You're like that demo part the other day. It's like, who's this bloke next to me? I know I sit next to him all the time. Just introduce yourself there, Big J. Yeah, thanks. No,
I do
good,
love
mate.
to rip him every now and then.
I'm good because I'm sitting next to a great man today.
Tell us who he is.
This is Benny, my co-host of Supercoach Insider.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here. Bit weird taking the back seat, but look, I'm really happy to be here. I've spent so much money just feeling the vibe. It's all about the vibe. I bought, was it a Fitzroy jacket, bought a new 2023 polo, just feeling it. So super happy to be here.
Did you buy that new as well?
No, this is old. This one, the ugly sweater. I thought I'd go the ugly sweater out today. So I won't need it tomorrow. It's going to be super warm, bringing the Brisbane weather with us, 29 to 30 degrees, I think. So...
And we're told that there's a big echo coming through. So hang on, guys. We'll get that fixed momentarily for you. Let us know. To my ears, it sounds a bit better. Let us know in the comments. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Damo. Much love to you guys. Of course, it's not just Benny Boy who's in with us today. As excited we are to have you here in the flesh, we've also got an overseas correspondent all the way from the United Kingdom. It is, of course, Jesse of TrueFooty. How's it going, Jesse?
Very good, mates. This would be my first grand final from overseas in a long time now. So I'm excited to get up at 5 tomorrow morning. Can't wait. But more importantly, it's great to be on this channel. Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you on. I'm sure you can tell. I can't stop smiling. My cheese might hurt in a bit later on. But who are you backing for tomorrow?
I keep changing my mind. I think at the start of the final series, I did a prediction that Collingwood is going to win. And then I recently changed it this week. I've got a feeling the Lions are going to win now. So whichever result is correct is the one I'll clip up and put on TikTok and make it look like I got right. But I'll lock in the Lions for right now.
Hey, locking in the Lions.
Everyone's going the Lions.
Yeah, you got to go to the Lions.
You got to go the Lions?
Got to go to the Lions. Stuff Collingwood.
Anyone but Collingwood. Are you going to be the balanced person here?
Oh, it's 3-1, well 4-1. I don't know how balanced I can be. Maybe I'll be the guy that sits at the other end as the ship goes down. Like, hey, look, the last one to die.
Our microphones are in black and white, so that's something for the pie supporters out there.
There you go. Colours representing today. I mean, Brisbane always has that hoodoo at the MCG, right? Hey, what's going to happen?
What do you mean always? The hoodoo, winning premierships in 01, 02, 03, you call it a hoodoo.
Mate, 20 years ago doesn't matter.
We've only played 5 games over there in the last 20 years.
Well, there you go.
Here's a fun fact. This year, Collingwood has lost 3 games at the MCG. Brisbane's only lost 2. There's a fun fact.
Out of...
Yeah, but
2. We're not talking percentages. Percentages have nothing to do with it. It's a biased point of view. And
I'm wearing as Brisbane as it gets. I'm not sure how bias is coming in here. I'm trying my best to play devil's advocate, trying my best to...
No, you're not. You're signing with the majority. You're not playing devil's advocate anything.
Brisbane has former Essendon players. That's why. It's a mutual love and respect.
Yeah. You got Connor McKenna and Judas Danaher.
We should call this the Dane Beams Cup. You know, he's gone to one claim and then come back and then gone back again. So it all works out pretty well.
Absolutely. Jesse, who are you calling for to have the big breakout game? I know you changed it to Brisbane, so clearly you're thinking someone in the Brisbane Lions is going to take over the game and play a really important role.
Yeah, well, the basic answer is to say Lachie Neale. I think statistically, I think he's the top player between these two sides in the last 5 games they've met. And obviously, we saw from the Brownlow how consistent the guy actually is. So he's probably going to be a big one for the Lions. The other one is Zach Bailey. I would really love this kid to... he's not a kid anymore at all. That shows how old I'm getting. But it feels like he's a kid. But I feel like he's got the potential to really rip a game apart. So I think we know Lachie Neale's probably going to play well, win, lose or draw. But I'd say the other contenders for the Lions will be maybe Danaher as the big tall up front, but probably Zach Bailey as well. And then for the Pies, you've got Degoe is a player that I'm just expecting to play well, big game player, plays well in finals. I think in my prediction I had Degoe, Norm Smith, but the Lions to win by 3 points. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there.
And Norm Smith in a losing grand final. When was the last time that happened?
That's an absolutely great question, actually.
Just off the bat, this is not scripted. This is indeed live.
I would say
Judd in 05
I'm pretty
at the
sure it
last
happened
one.
when
Judd,
Sydney,
yes.
Sydney West Coast Juddy. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anyone before. Well, the draw doesn't count because nobody won or lost.
Correct.
So, I can't think of anyone from there after that.
Can you imagine if they had that draw song? No one lost, but no one won. It's a draw. Have you seen that episode of The Front Bar? You have it? Okay. No worries. Moving on from there, you guys got a free
Cricket's
free little
there, mate.
sample of my shit singing voice.
Get him on the voice.
Everything's
This is the
delayed 3
voice.
weeks up in Queensland, so missed it.
It is what it is. I see Chris here in the comments. On you, Chris. Not the other half, because you could... another third? Yeah, a third.
Half of Queensland.
Half of Queensland. There you go, Chris. Degoe versus Dunkley. Matchups are key. I 100% agree with you. Who do you reckon will edge out the other, Degoe or Dunkley?
Well, I mean, they don't play the same role, right? Dunkley's the more clearance tackle beast. Degoe's more, hey, let's party on the weekend. So I think Dunkley's kind of got it made there.
Oh, he wasn't partying last week. Degoe was too busy cooking in that midfield against the Giants. Who do you reckon, Jesse, gets the cookies there?
I'm thinking Degoe has a big game regardless. So as good a player as Josh Dunkley is, I feel like there's no chance he's going to have a quiet game. Like I said, win, lose or draw. So I think he'll hit the scoreboard. I think he'll win 8 clearances. But again, it might not be enough.
How did Dunkley
He's a
only get 4
one-trick
votes?
pony.
One-trick pony. Look, it worked well last week against the Giants.
Mate, it's just...
Runs fast forward out of a stoppage. Put someone with some actual size in front of him, and he'll be gone. Like, gone.
Degoe.
Horrible pick.
That was terrible. Jeez. All right. Go back to Queensland. No, I'm just kidding. We love having you here.
It's just like the state of origin for the rugby, right? Victorians carrying the Brisbane team. So it's happened again for AFL and probably happen again tomorrow.
Look, you guys play a direct brand of football as well. Like, you like to tax through the corridor, go quick, a bit Degoe-esque, dare I say.
How dare you? That's why we're not really Supercoach relevant, because we don't overuse the possessions. We don't get the cheap kicks like Collingwood used to. They just rack up the touches. But Brisbane do like to play to great. So if they get it on their own terms. I was talking to Swizz before. Brisbane, for me, it's about they hold up this really stupid 99-99 sign. Like, slow it down. Except when they play slow, they're horrible. Absolutely horrible. So if they try and just defend and play slow, Collingwood will withstand and push. And Brisbane have to be really opportunistic with the times that they actually run and take on the game. And they need to.
Yeah, a bit like Sydney, I think. Kind of the game when they lost the finals this year was just a bit like that. They tried to play slow at the back and then they just get overwhelmed. So if Brisbane do that, if you let Collingwood play their game, I think you're in a bit of strife.
The thing is, though, the Giants didn't, take a back foot or take a back step. I don't know how you say it properly. They attacked Collingwood, and that's the way they play. But Collingwood are so good on the counter-attack. If you leave yourself open, can you see the Pies getting out the back in this game, Swizz?
I think the biggest thing with the Pies is their defence is just so solid. They'll keep absorbing that pressure all day. So it's just about, like we look at it last week, they kicked 2 goals till sometime into the third quarter, but just kept absorbing the Giants' pressure. And then once that opportunity came where the Giants did start turning over the ball, forced by Collingwood, putting that pressure further up the ground, then they were getting out the back. So how long can they hold up against like a Brisbane's team who is better at attacking? Like they have put some massive scores up this year, the Lions. They've got more avenues to goal. and that's definitely going to be the problem. But if that Collingwood line up, in particular Darcy Moore, and then the smalls around and like your Maynards, Nick Dacos getting back, the wingmen getting back to support them, and they can continue to stop the influence of your Charlie Camerons and Rayners and those guys who get the ball on the ground. I think Collingwood will definitely zoom the ball up the other end and get a few of those goals that they do. Benny boy?
Yeah, I was going to say, Brisbane, after quarter time, obviously, 5 goals aside, their pressure was so quick, so fierce, that as soon as Carlton got the ball, they were just pumped. Absolutely under pressure. Now, if they do that to Collingwood and stop the link-up handball, and the run and overlap, like Carlton, what they did to them, that's their best chance of actually getting success. So when you speak about the game, and yes, their attack, Brisbane, they kick goals and they try and take it on in that aspect, but a lot of their opportunities came from playing that really high-pressure game from quarter time, and if they do that, Collingwood won't play the game that they like to.
Yeah, I know Chris here is saying that the Pies pressure is very different and you won't get that luxury this week. Did you see something similar there, Jesse, with that first quarter? I know, Ben, he's saying first quarter aside, I'm sure Collingwood would be looking at that first quarter really forensically and trying to see how they can implement that tomorrow on Grand Final day.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Lions didn't start that game particularly well. It just looked like they were a bit of a step off the pace and the Blues really came to play. Is that because they had a week off the week before? I'm not so sure. I think Collingwood actually started better in the other prelim, so maybe that argument doesn't make sense. But I just think with the energy in this game, it's just going to be on for young and old from the opening bounce. So I think pressure we can expect from both sides, and I'm intrigued to see what impact the crowd has as well, because it's going to be a very Collingwood strong crowd. I've been to a Collingwood home grand final before, and when the Eagles would kick a goal, I'd think, wow, there's actually a lot of Eagles fans here, and then you'd hear a Collingwood goal and you would just be deaf. It would be like 80 times as loud. So I think Collingwood is probably going to start well in this game. That's how I foresee it, and the crowd is going to be an impact. It's just a matter of them putting scores on the board, because for all that what I thought was a bit of dominance in the first quarter last week, they didn't really put it on the scoreboard, and their 2 winning scores in this final series have been 60 and 58 or something like that. So putting scoreboard pressure on early is what Collingwood will need to focus on, I think, as much as the pressure.
And do you think Dan McStay, out of the side, is going to limit that ability to kick that winning score early?
Yeah, potentially. Naturally, yes, because he's I think as much as a decent player that he is, I think structurally as well it kind of impacts them. And I think they have Frampton playing as a forward in match simulation drills this week. There's a chance he plays there, or maybe he plays more in the ruck this week, and we see Cox a factor there. So they're going to need to chuck someone tall up front, and then their medium to small forward types are damaging enough that it's probably just holding their structure that's key.
And how heartbroken would you be if Mason Cox all of a sudden pulls off a Richmond prelim-esque performance, pushing up forward and clunking everything? What would happen?
You forget Leicester is in the defensive line. Yes. Years ago, Leicester, poor little froggy Leicester, outsized by about 4 heads, which is pretty much 1 American head. And he literally dominated Mason Cox. So I am very optimistic. If we lose, look, I hope we just play well. I'm here for the experience. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get down. But obviously, if they win, then I'm kicking on to Fitzroy. 8 p.m, watching the replay, tear it down.
Well, we've torn up Fitzroy already. We're up the Royal Derby Hotel last night with all the Brisbane and Fitzroy fans, which was a lot of it was great fun. And then obviously we went over to Victoria Park before, and there was a lot of buzz and vibe up there. And they had another game going as well, so big crowd. So yeah, either way, it's going to be exciting.
And some big Brisbane people there as well.
The Brisbane players, John O'Brien and Ash McGrath, and a few Fish Whiting, who we got to spend some time chatting to later. So they were, it was good to have just the vibe in there, and the amount of Brisbane and Fitzroy supporters that have been around. So it's exciting. I've had a couple of messages come through, talking about the game. So a shout out to I think it's Bryony. who most people know it's my wife, but she's been all about sitting there going, has anybody actually looked up Danaher's stats recently at the MCG? He did have a good game against the D's possessions-wise, but fell on the scoreboard that day, and then against Hawthorn was absolutely demolished. So MCG form has not been good recently, so that's a bit of a crack at my Norm Smith tip there. So thanks for that one, honey.
Are you surprised, though? She's an Essendon supporter we are.
She is.
Of course,
so
we are very critical of Judas.
She has gone right through the former Essendon player stats there and just pointing out that, the Lions, they can say as much as the MCG is not a fear factor for them, but, they haven't won there for a while, and, you've still got to be worried about that, Ben.
Here's where it sits for me. Collingwood, really good quarter 1, quarter 4 teams.
Yep.
Brisbane, I say good finishing generally, unless they're ahead. They just let Melbourne kick 5 goals on them. They let people come back into a closer. Even Carlton, they got closer than they should have. So for me, Brisbane, quarter 2 and 3. Now, if Pies don't get too much of a head start, then quarter 2 and 3, Brisbane should really dominate. And if Collingwood's anywhere within 4 goals, I worry.
Yep.
And I'm not a superstitious person. Carlton were 5 goals up, and for the first time in my life, I had my eyes closed, my fingers crossed. Because, you've got Hipwood kicking. It's either 40% through the middle, 60% either behinds or out in the full. Like, it's horrible.
40%, it works.
Every time.
100% every time.
60% of the time, it's going somewhere else every time.
I don't think it's the talls anyway that are going to win the game for Brisbane. I really think it's going to be those medium forwards and the medium midfielders, the guys that can run through your Zach Baileys, your Cam Rayners, your Archies. Those are the guys who I think are quick enough to navigate the Maynard and the Darcy Moores and that, and run the ball through and get those really quick goals. Because Collingwood's fantastic if you let them set up, but catch them on transition, run the ball through from a stoppage in the back line, and they're the guys that are going to stop it. So if Danaher doesn't kick 5 goals tomorrow, that's okay, because he's nullified Darcy Moore for the entire game, which means that everyone else can do really well.
Yeah, that's very fair.
He's a liability. Joe Danaher, once it hits the ground, if he's no chance of a mark or a possession or a goal, he does not try.
No.
At all.
Surely he tries tomorrow. It's the grand final.
Yeah, but sometimes you're looking, run, tackle, do something, Joe Danaher. Where I'll add to what you're saying, Big Joe, is that I think Brisbane's 18 to 22 are probably better than Collingwood's 18 to 22.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll throw a couple in there just because I'm interacting with our audience. So Nico sent in Brisbane by 16 points. Really likes them. We've got Pondy out there, Pies by 12. Thinks Lincoln McCartney's going to kick the first goal. DeGoey as your Norm Smith. Nico Dunkley, or he's big on Neil and McCluggage as well as your Norm Smith. JP from Bali, holiday out there. So he's even sent in a message. Brisbane by 23 points. Yep. Liking that. Cody's going Ginnivan for first goal, but the Lions will get up by 7. So thanks for the input there, boys.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was saying to Joe kind of on our car stream during the week about Ginnivan not being the sub, him playing for that. I think he's really, really good with that quick impact like he had during, was it preliminary final where he came on and did quite well? But if you play this type of player for the entire time, I think he just gets found out. It's really weird that they have gone with him not being the sub. He can jump in third or fourth quarter and have an impact versus having him the entire game.
Yeah, whereas Lipinski's more of an endurance
a liability.
runner. Yeah.
Lipinski's more of a liability. Ask any Pies fan. Lipinski, they've been on his back so much.
Chris and I were very big on Twitter about that last week. And it's good to see we weren't alone.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, especially those who were looking at that from Supercoach from the year before, thinking, here we go, Lipinski, we need to get him in our team because he's going to be the big saviour here for Collingwood. And I don't think the Dogs will be crying over losing him.
No.
Hey, Jesse, Chris here in the comments is saying that McRae's trying to get the 24th man involved in this game, that Ginnivan's there as that crowd energizer. Everyone, all the Collingwood fans love Guinea. Personally, I can't stand him, but it is what it is. I don't barrack for Collingwood. I hate everybody in black and white. Do you think he has more to offer than just simply getting the crowd up and about?
Good question. I'm also not a Ginnivan fan. He is really, really annoying. Look, he's one of those players that could be an opportunistic small forward, and you can see how he could impact in the game. I do think that the crowd's not going to need any real motivation. This is a grand final, and when you go to one, just every goal that's scored is cheered for as though you've won the flag. It's insane. I don't think necessarily he will add much value trying to rev up the crowd. I think that's it's just going to come down to what he can actually provide on the football field, and I'm sure we all have different opinions. But look, he could definitely impact these small forwards can change a game deep in finals, as we know from Nick Davis, who was a better player, I think, but still.
Nick Davis. Oh, no, Hutto. I wish Hutto is Hutto calling this one. We know for a fact Hutto's going to be calling this one.
Does he call 7 games? Doesn't
I'd
he
love
just do
to
the
have
radio?
him be on I'd love to be on Channel 7, but because most people watch it on free to air.
Yeah.
Would be awesome if they could get Hutto on, but of course you got to pay for his voice to come on. Now it's Channel 7 staff. Hutto's a Fox Footy guy. Cheers, Crispy. Much appreciated. Because when you compare talking about the Collingwood Smalls, you compare them to Brisbane Smalls. It's hard to compare them. I think Brisbane's ones are more dynamic and hit the scoreboard more often, don't they?
More experienced is probably a way to go. Like, Bobby Hill, dynamic, X factor, and Ginnivan, same thing. They're very high impact, but they can also go missing. So we speak about everyone's going to try because it's a grand final, but because of the spectacle, the big occasion, time will go so quick, and you'll get some of these people might not even get a touch in the first quarter, and they go, oh, and then all of a sudden they start to actually reflect, holy crap, it's quarter time, I've done nothing. And these guys could get found out, not because they're not trying, but because it goes past them.
So where is it supposed to stand? Are they supposed to be, you reckon, more front centre? Because I know in the last game, Charlie Cameron was getting it at the back. Do you reckon he'll try and do that again, or do you think he's going to have a bit more, front and centre, trying to crumb directly from the front? You got the two bigs compared to Collingwood, who, they might change things up and send Mason Cox forward, but I feel like, is there going to be a difference in the way they play, do you think, on grand final day for the Brisbane Lions?
That's a tough question. Now, one of my gripes is where Charlie's always trying to get out the back.
Yep.
Now, he was on Sard trying to get out the back, expecting a 70-metre kick. I was like, dude, lead up, get the possession, and then burn back. So that's my concern. Now, it depends who has Charlie, in my opinion. So, who are you thinking?
Well, do you think they just go straight out with Maynard?
Yeah, I think Maynard's had him before.
He's going to be the first.
Or IQ.
I think it's Maynard that goes maybe to Charlie, but if Charlie was to move up the ground, I think whoever moves up, if it's Rain or Charlie, IQ goes with them and Maynard stays more in that back pocket, and they'll probably swap, because we've seen that even with the Toby Green, and that they all rotate through each other depending on who's moving up, and so they kind of keep their structure. So I think that's most likely.
The biggest liability is when Brisbane go long, sometimes really slow. Geelong used to expose us all the time. They would go, lock it down, play slow, go long down the line. Both really good at reading the play and intercepting. So if they do that and Danaher, Hipwood, they don't bring it to ground, we're in trouble. Or when they do bring it to ground, if we're outnumbered or we're actually getting sucked into the contest and Collingwood get us on the outside, then we're burnt. The ball bounces straight back out. That's my biggest concern.
Which is why I was saying I think they win by running the ball through. I don't think that bomb at long is going to carry Brisbane over the line. I think they'll get a few points from the transition, like the back line running it through the middle and into the forward line. So Cameron should be a little bit higher up, trying to break the lines and trying to make it so he can get out of way of his defender, because he's going to be quicker than basically anyone in that Collingwood back line. Yeah. Really, maybe Quaynor, but 4 quarters on Quaynor, he's got him made there. So if he can get out of space, and the MCG's bigger than anywhere, bigger than the Gabba, right?
Of
so
course.
There is space to run around.
Brisbane changed their tactic at quarter time last week. They were kicking it out of pressure to that outnumber. After quarter time, they actually more handballs, run, link, carry. And that's what I like about Brisbane is that they can actually change their strategy, their tactics through. So if they do run and carry, I just wanted to say, because obviously I was at the game, been at all their finals at home. So when you get into trade talk or whatever else, I'll take a back seat. But we're talking Lions, and I'm all in for it.
Yeah.
A lot of the talk tonight will be Lions and Collingwood.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the grand final tomorrow.
When you've got a team, and I love Brisbane's structure, because when you've got a team with effectively 3 really good tall players and then a lot of mediums around them and a couple of smalls, it really allows you, as Ben was saying, to be versatile, right? You can play tall and not have to change the team lineup. You can now change your strategy to being small. And you can't have, defensive lineups. They're not going to be able to run 3 interceptors against the talls and then be able to cover something else. And you just break them apart.
I think how fit each team stays tomorrow is going to be really important. Like if you lose an early injury, because I think the differences between both sides are so minute that, if one team goes down, because Collingwood's plan will be Cox or Cameron gets subbed off halfway through that third quarter. Yep. Frampton can then go pinch hit in the ruck. And most likely, I think it'll be Darcy Cameron will be the one that I'll sub, and Cox will get a rest before that, and he'll do the majority with Frampton there. But if they were to lose somebody early, that would mean they've got to keep Cameron, Cox, Frampton on for the entire game. And in that warmer weather, that could have a real impact there. Where they're the same with the Lions, I guess. They just can't be losing one of their key backs, especially if because Payne's out now. Now, Darcy Gardner played fantastic last game.
He did.
But if you were to lose either him or Harris Andrews or a tall there, it's going to the pressure is going to be just too much.
Why are you bringing up fit people for? It's if Darcy Moore gets injured, well, no shit.
Well, of course, mate. But, I don't think you've got the ability to cover, especially if you've got Payne and Andrews who have been both brilliant all year, you just down that one cog with Gardner down there. I think it's going to be hard for him to back up and go 2 games big in a row. But it's a massive. It's going to be, and I think the keys there are Darcy Moore and Harris Andrews just in the game. So touchwood, no one does get injured, and they can be tactical subs where Lyons and Lipinski can come on. I think that, as we talked before, the Pie supporters will be wanting that change not happening, but I think that'll be the natural one. Cameron goes off. I'd say 15-minute mark third quarter, and Lipinski will come on. The Lions is probably not as clear. It might be one of the younger fellas where Lions will probably get involved in that last quarter. But as I said, injuries will come into it, and it could change the complete complexion of that.
But if an injury does come up, especially for Collingwood, for example, and they're forced to keep playing, Frampton, Cox, and Darcy Cameron, I don't think they're going to be too upset about it, because the Big O is, I think, by far and away the best ruckman out there on the field. And I imagine he's going to be giving the midfielders a lot of first use, trying to overwork him, perhaps, with a bit of double team, maybe even triple team. So what do you think, Jesse? Do you think, how massive of an impact do you think will Big O have on this game? Because I'm not sure too many people are talking about the Big O, but I think he's, not quite as rated as highly as I think he should.
Yeah, I tend to agree. He is a player that sort of slips under the radar. You do think if he played for a Big Vic club, not to throw that out there, but I think if he did play for a Collingwood, he'd probably have a much bigger profile. I mean, how much do we know about Mason Cox, for instance? And he doesn't deserve it. But anyway, I think he'll. I think he will be a key player here in a game without really strong ruck prospects. Like the midfield and the clearance battle in particular, I think it's going to be a really interesting one. The Lions are naturally one of the strongest clearance. In fact, I think they're the number 1 rated for clearances, and maybe second from scores from stoppage. Whereas the Pies, obviously, with Taylor Adams out this week and last week, I thought they actually did really well. They smashed the Giants actually in clearances, and we know how strong the Giants midfield is. So any sort of advantage that they can derive from McInerney, I think will be a huge plus in this game in terms of clearances, and we know how strong that clearance sort of division is for the Lions.
Because McInerney also can pinch forward and kick a goal.
Well, he kicked 2, which,
or 2.
Again, I had to watch the replay. I had my eyes closed, fingers crossed, because I got 5 goals in a row by doing that, which I don't normally do. The big issue with Big O is that he's a left-handed ruckman. Now, centre bounce, perfect. But anytime you're actually getting a throw in from the boundary, opposition rucks generally try and get on, to his left and almost wrap him up a little bit so he can't get that left arm free. So one thing he has improved on in the last 24 months is actually still being able to get his opposite hand up and tap to a good degree. So he's a big left-hander, but if you got, hey, my right, your left, they'll try and link up early and then reach up.
Is that why Lee Matthews has been so vocal about umpires just pay the damn free kicks?
Well, and GWS, I mean, you're saying how great they were playing. They play super hard football, so hard they don't even get a free kick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that the view there where the umpires do kind of change the way they do approach the game. And I think maybe it's from them being cautious that they don't want to pay a free kick, which could be controversial, which might cost the team a flag. But in the end of the day, it's the same thing where they don't pay a free kick, which then, and we see that where it's, I guess, the reservations to pay it against the home team because, how they're going to be turned on and that. Like they should be good enough to keep not have them making those sort of decisions. But I think David King was the one this week that was saying, this is the problem where you get 4 umpires in each game now. Back in the day, we would have had 1 umpire, 2 umpires umpiring games, so the best umpires to do it. But now we're falling so far down the ladder because you've got 9 games a week most weeks. And that's the 36th umpire, on that panel umpiring games. And then you get to finals. And it's also, like Razor Ray, as much as we love him or hate him, does make reasonably good decisions most of the time.
Yeah.
But maybe not as fit or doesn't bounce the ball as well as some of the other umpires out there, so it doesn't make the finals cut.
I think he's injured. I think he's got that back problem.
Yeah, he has, so he can't bounce the ball, so they won't have him in finals because of that. So I think some of these decisions that they've made regarding the umpires, and then we see how bad some of the umpiring decisions were last week, and I've talked to a couple of former umpires about this, where, how they're rated, just from the public view, we would be looking at it and go, that's ridiculous. Like, we want the umpires who make the best decisions, not necessarily who run the fastest and who bounce the ball. Benny?
Can you see an overcorrection this week? Oh, we didn't play free kicks. We should have in the last 5 minutes of football. Next minute, that free was there, free kick Collingwood or free kick Brisbane. And then they'll say, well, hang on, you wanted the free kicks to be paid. So now there's 90 seconds to go. That's a free kick, and you can all be stuffed.
Yeah.
There'll be nothing paid in the last 2 minutes.
There really does feel, maybe Jesse can chime in with this as well, but there really does feel that during the regular season that when the commentators say, oh, look, the umpires need to work on this, blah, 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 then the following week they come out and say, oh, like there's 5 extra free kicks looking at that exact thing. I think like holding the ball was one. I think there was one that was like when they stand over and don't let the player get up so everyone else can get behind position as well.
That they do make a good point. Something I think, again, Kane Corns might have been the one on this. You've got players who just like to get a break from footy and they don't watch a lot of footy. We've talked about this plenty of times on the show. Brody Grundy, Zerha, there's plenty of them out there who will just get away from the game where others take it all in as much as possible. But if you're a footballer, how you do not watch Friday night football has got me beat, because every week there's a rule of the week and it's always Friday night, and you saw, as you said, what they've been talking about in the media that week. And it's amazing how many players that don't actually watch that game and then they get pinned for it. But it shouldn't be the case. We shouldn't be having rules of the week and where there's a focus on that just because the umpires didn't call it the week before.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris has just messaged saying it was a block. Good old Maynard. Shout out to Dom Sheed. 3 votes. Kept Dacos. What do you have? 30-odd touches, a few goals, 2 votes in the Brownlow. Dom Sheed. West Coast beaten by about, 40, 50 points?
It might have been 70 of that.
Oh, it was so bad.
I think Jesse can tell us better.
and he's still...
So bad.
And Sheed's still ruining things for Collingwood. I wonder if there's a way he can ruin something for Collingwood tomorrow.
That was not a block.
You make a good point about you make a good point about the last 2 minutes. Nothing's going to be paid. I reckon, as a tip to the Lions players out there, in the last 2 minutes, that's an optimal time to go block Braden Maynard. Just go do it. You'll get away with it. So,
well, we've got history and data on our side. Just they can't pay it.
Well, they said
True.
there was nothing to pay in the last 5 minutes.
Maynard should be just happy he's out there.
Yeah, he should be, absolutely. You can't forget Nick Dacos. That was a dangerous tackle.
No,
It was a
If that's
dangerous
round,
tackle.
no, but
If that was round
the problem
2...
was, if that's round 2, it does get done. Now, right, like it or not, now I don't think it should go, but round 2 he goes.
Yep.
Yeah, because they do because they go protect the head, like the Sicily one. Even though there was another player that got involved, Sicily got 3 weeks for it.
Can you
Stupidest
believe that?
decision ever. And Dacos, and they were saying, well, because Pendlebury got involved. No difference to what happened to Sicily.
Listen to the Brisbane guy.
Yeah, just because that was against Brisbane, but that's exactly what happened.
No, I'm saying.
Well, Dacos probably would have not got done because it actually depends when it was. Because if it's like round 2, they probably do.
Yes.
If it's round 20 and he's in Brownlow.
I've never been able to do this before. You shush. Now, if his teammate, was it Josh Dacos? Was it the Dacos brothers or Pendles? So he had the chicken wing, the arm bent back. Now, that was the saving factor. Because if you're tackling, and it was probably in the back, right?
Yes,
in my opinion. So, but he didn't know the other arm was pinned, so he's just gone in, grabbed, dumped. So he has no idea that the other arm's pinned. So there's no way that was getting suspended.
But the AFL has shown that they don't
Doesn't
care.
matter. How are you meant to know someone's got a chicken wing on the other side?
Well, Sicily's one was another teammate tripping up the guy.
So you're saying every
No,
tackling player...
I'm not saying it should be. I completely agree with you. But I'm just saying the AFL will do it because they've got to come out and protect their head.
Yeah, and Jordan Boyd for
100%.
Carlton. Now, I'm not a
AFL
Carlton man. Stuff you, Carlton. I'm so glad you lost last week. Piss off. No, but Jordan Boyd got suspended 3 weeks. It was a legal tackle. The ball spilled out. He couldn't see it because it was on his other side.
Mate,
and he copped 3.
He dumped him
thing?
so hard that he was ghosting him.
You know why it was? Because Jordan Boyd, who knows about him?
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's a Cripps or a Brownlow contender and that, bang, you get off. It's simple. And if you're in finals, you can pretty well, like the Trent Cotchin one that everyone comes back. I mean, it's true. He should have got done. But in finals, your key players don't get suspended.
Oh, no,
They
he's
just
a
won't do
premiership
it.
captain.
He is.
Shut up. This is not the Richmond podcast.
Well, make it the Richmond podcast. But it's
okay,
true.
So going back, summarising, Swizz's approach is that players must do a reach around in their tackle.
I'll give you a reach around in a minute. I agree with you. It should have get none. But I'm saying if that was round 2, the AFL suspends him.
Well, if you're agreeing with me, shut up, Swizz.
No.
He was lucky. We'll just say that. But yeah, as Jacob says here, there's definitely favourites in the AFL. We can't. You can't not admit that there are favourites in the AFL. Whether or not some team in particular on tomorrow will be the favourite, we can clearly see Lachie Neale is an umpire favourite, can't we, Jesse?
Yeah, that was one of the more contentious Brownlow wins I've seen since probably Matty Priddis won it in 2014 in terms of the backlash. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the internet backlash. I think Lachie Neale has been very humble, and he is probably a worthy winner. Like, he probably could have won it last year. So, 2 Brownlows in total probably makes sense. But yeah, once it was brought to my attention how bad some of the voting was, I did a video on it and I went back and saw certainly the Jason Horne-Francis one was probably the worst example of 3 votes anyone has ever seen. Jeremy Cameron only getting 1 vote for that round 2 performance against Carlton. 6 goals, 25 possessions. I think it was only 1 vote he got. And then, of course, all the other ones littered throughout the season. It was, when you really shine a microscope on it, Brownlow voting, it really sort of undermines the integrity of the award, unfortunately.
How did he get 3 votes against the Giants?
So here's my theory. If you don't mind.
You go first.
Please.
Well, first of all, my partner's messaging the YouTube saying...
Thanks, Trin.
She's saying, tell him off, Swizz.
Yeah, I will.
So my theory is that the game finishes, umpires are too busy watching the adjudication of the game. You get to the end of the game, who do you think of first? When you're trying to figure out votes, you're like, hey, how did Cripps go? How did Neale go? How did all the best, Lance Franklin, all the best players are the first ones you will probably think about, how did they play?
Horne-Francis somehow outscored.
Yeah, that
gets 3 points against other play.
that's probably the one that stands out more than even
You mean
the Neale
Bergman?
one.
there you
But
go.
I've heard a couple of former umpires talking about this week. Apart from last year where they got the stats, most of the time the umpires don't get the stats. So they go in and, there's a discussion where you've got the 4 umpires. So you've got usually 2 umpires who are around the middle and then the other 2. So you are watching those midfielders. So as you said, it's the first ones you're talking about, unless you've got a defender or a forward who's absolutely had an absolute blinder. So they're, as you said, they'll go through all the midfielders. If you're a player, I think a lot of the time who does pick up the ball last in the pack and hand it to the umpire, that's in front of your mind, and that's what one of the umpires was saying. Always bottom of the pack, and that's where a lot of the times your Horn Francis, your Neils, your Cripps, all them, they get the ball, they're down, ball up, so they might not actually go to possession, but they're picking up, handing it back to the umpire. Ball down, ball up, again, handing it. So they're always looking at going, well, these players are always got the ball. So it is that little bit of bias where, okay, we're looking at it, especially everything we do is stats, being big super coach people. So we're looking going, okay, this guy's had 42 possessions and this guy's had this much efficiency and where it's gone. And with the Goulden one, the former umpire was talking about, so he had a really good first half. But then they would go back in the room and go, okay, what happened in the second half or the third half, or the second half or the third quarter, fourth quarter, where Goulden did kind of drop off. Where they were going, okay, who was the midfielder who was probably the most consistent throughout the day? And that's where, like, Viney, for example, was getting a lot of votes. Again, there's a repeat ball-ups. He's getting the ball. He's shoveling it out. So he's front of mind for at least 2 umpires.
Meanwhile, Joel Amardi is subbed at half-time.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Chris shouted out 19 times players got the 10 in the coaches' votes and didn't poll. Yep. Charlie Cameron kicked 7 goals. Now, if you're hearing Country Road 7 times, how do you not consider them for a vote?
I think it wasn't at Giant Stadium, but that one or
No, there was one at the
Brisbane?
Gabba where he kicked an absolute stack.
It was against the Giants.
And
it was there.
Yeah, and there's someone who had probably never been to the Gabba before, had no idea that that's what they do. All the players have their own song, and they're complaining in front of me in the Gabba's members section, saying, "Oh, this song again, this song again." So we're just singing it louder and louder, and they had no idea that it was actually related to the person kicking the goal, and they just got so upset. It was
Talking about
funny.
that, it was kind of weird yesterday in the pub, where there was 300 grown men singing Let It Go by Frozen because that's Danaher's song.
Yes. Now, there are no songs tomorrow because they're playing at the MCG.
Apparently, the Fitzroy Lions and Brisbane supporters will be singing along. So I hope that comes through on the TV because that'll be amazing. If
M3
we
Bay.
expect that from you, Benny boy.
Everyone we've spoken to, if Charlie kicks a goal, I don't care about everyone else. I'm not singing Let It Go. But
you
Country
are.
Road.
Yeah, you are.
Country Road. Brisbane Lions have actually released the songs for every player's goal. And here's how crazy some Brisbane Lions supporters are. Not me, personally. But they're saying you can sneak in like a little portable speaker and you can sync them up. You could have 100 of them within a 30-metre radius, and they were talking about finding a spot and linking them all up and playing our own DJ songs.
It'll be a big sound.
It's
too soon.
Don't do that. They lost all the big sound. It's like I went to, this is a shout out, it was at AFL and Formula One, AFL and F1 shop in Victoria, and they had a sales section and it had Brisbane Lions sale merchandise. And I love a sale. Like I like cheap things, right?
Don't we all?
Except for whiskey and my missus, the rest of it cheap. But they had triple
to her.
premiers. They had a jacket for $50 odd, triple premiers, and it had the years. And I looked at it and said, wow, $50, this looks great. And I was looking at it and someone else was trying on. I said, hang on, it says triple premiers. So I was like, that's a bad omen because we're playing on Saturday, so we want to be 4-time premiers. So I put the jacket back.
You put it back.
And I told everyone else,
had three.
put the jackets down. They are dirty. That is bad news. Put it back.
He wants a jumper that exists predicting
Yeah,
their
that's
fourth
right.
flag.
That's right.
And you're talking about the other Brisbane fans who are crazy with syncing up
geez.
their speakers.
It was on sale because it was an old jacket. It was their 01, 02, 03 premiership jacket.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying one that says triple premiership.
You are triple prem.
Yeah,
You are triple premiers for that.
And that's the thing, like, mate, I've got
But we're new. 4-time
Mate,
premiers.
every year I've got my different my shirts on, my member shirts for that. It's just because it's out of date doesn't mean I'm not going to wear it. Like, I love the old stuff. Like your 1800 Brisbane top right here. It's great.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest footy superstition then? That's a superstition for me.
That's got to be
weirdest.
the weirdest one
Yeah,
for
that's
me.
just, yeah.
Thank you.
That's what happens when we invite Queenslanders on our podcast.
Jesse,
It's just-
weirdest footy superstition.
Huh. That's a good one. For me personally, or in the ones that I've heard, I don't know. Not really a very superstitious guy.
Neither am I, but someone else has
yeah.
clearly taken the cake here.
Yeah, I get the same thing every time I go to the footy. I get a meat lovers pizza and chips, which is pretty average to be honest. But hey, we've lost every time, so maybe I should stop having it.
Fair enough. Yes. Meat lovers pizza. I'm not much of a pizza
No,
guy when I
I'm
go
not
to the...
that. Well, talking about people in the UK, so I've had a few more people send in their
Oh,
predictions.
nice.
So I've got Cano, who's actually in London at Victoria Station right now over there. So he's on Collingwood tomorrow. So is Abdul, the great man. So he's back in the pies for
Calm
whatever
it down.
stupid reason. Calm it down there. To Grimo, our good mate there, 32 points at the Lions. Todd, former panellist on this show. So he's on the Lions as well. Chris has sent in, who's the actual scoreboard attendant at the MCG. So he's go Lions. But I don't think he's working the scoreboard tomorrow, so that might not help you. And then Dags has sent in, he's like, go Lions, and he's like, point post to get reported for running into Maynard at some point. So love that prediction.
Oh my God. So, all right, we've got a whole bunch of predictions. I think we're going to go maybe around the table. I think we've spoken all over the ground. Jez, your tip and your Norm Smith medalist, please.
My tip is Collingwood are going to come out and try and snipe a few players early. They don't care about suspensions next year. They're the dirty team. They're going to come. Maynard's going to try and knock someone out in the first quarter. Dacos is going to be like, oh, I didn't mean to jam this guy's head straight into the ground. Murphy's like, I didn't mean to throw someone into the goalpost.
The Dangerfield method.
There you go. Get rid of
How did
him
that work
early.
for him? How did that work?
Norm Smith. It's going to be interesting.
So you're tipping the pies?
No, I just...
The dirty pies.
My tip is they're going to hurt people.
Yeah.
That's my
But who are you
result.
tipping?
No, Brisbane. I think Brisbane's going to
Okay.
win. Norm Smith. Maybe we'll try... I know midfielders normally get it right.
What
but
margin?
Let's go Charlie Cameron.
Margin. Yes, nice one.
What, 1 to 12, 1 to 24, 1 to 40?
1 to 12, I think. Makes for a good game. Like, how excited were we last Friday watching that game?
Oh, yeah.
Like, jumping around, going crazy, so yeah.
And your Norm Smith?
Charlie Cameron.
Charlie Cameron. Interesting. He couldn't get... Oh, but it's not umpires, though, making this decision. So, yeah.
Chris
I
Judd,
can
I
see
think,
it.
Chris Judd, I believe.
If he wins it, are you guys going to sing Country Roads?
I'll sing Country Road until 4 a.m. the next morning.
Alright, done.
Country road.
Take me home.
He's the Brisbane fan. Jeez, all right,
That's
fine.
that's
I see
my
how it
wife will
To
just
a
kill the
place I belong, West Virginia. I don't know the rest of the words.
What have I started?
Charlie Cameron,
Oh,
kick the goal. Swizz,
no.
your tip.
I've been on it all week. The Lions by 24. I think that's my heart saying instead of my head because I am worried about maybe the Pies risking a few suspensions and it might be a couple of melees early on that game. But I'm still backing the Lions. I think if the Lions are winning, it's because Joe Danaher has kicked a bag. So I've been on him for Norm Smith and first goal on Lincoln McCartney there.
No, Bo McCurry.
Lincoln McCarthy.
Yeah.
Norm Smith.
No, for
First
first
goal.
goal.
Meant to say,
First
geez,
goal,
all right,
mate.
Sorry, yeah.
Although,
Though he'll win Norm Smith now, and people will be like, "Why didn't I get on?"
no, there's a guy today said McCarthy kicking 5 goals and Norm Smith, and he turned around and said, "Okay." So my mate's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to put a bet on McCarthy now because you have to. You just have to." So for me, I'm going Brisbane by 34. I don't want it to be close. So I don't know if that's the heart or like the head saying, realistically, I'll take a 0.5 point win. Like I'll take a 1 point win. I just want to win. I don't care. Was it GJ Khaled? All I do is win, no matter what.
No matter what.
It would be the greatest thing ever if Brisbane are up by like 80 points at halftime. Like, what was it? GWS Geelong, and the Collingwood fans start going home at halftime. That would be the greatest vision ever.
What would be the greatest thing is talking about DJ Khaled. We get another one because you guys draw.
I'd prefer that as the opposite, and then Brisbane come from the clouds. So the miracle on grass again.
That already happened versus Carlton.
Although, funny. So I'll go Norm Smith first, and then a funny story from last night with McGrath, the miracle on the grass. So for me, I think it'll be the dynamic players that'll probably turn the game. So outside of midfielders for Norm Smith, boring. Dacos, De Goey, Neil, Dunkley, boring. No value. Rayner, a guy that can hard to tackle, explosive, De Goey, light, although heavy.
Yeah.
So for me, Rayner's someone who could actually blow the game open.
So if the Goey's Kmart Dusty, what does that make Rayner?
He's Aldi. He's Aldi Dusty.
IGA.
IGA's got some good stuff and it's expensive, so I wouldn't be going.
I bought this from IGA.
But
against Sims Dusty. You remember Sims?
Yeah, but Sims was one of our sponsors at the cricket club, so I don't want to put them. I don't want to put them. Shout out to Sims.
Rayner, I think, can blow the game apart.
Yeah.
Couple goals, big tackles, clearance player if he goes into the midfield, high impact player. Now, there was one time against Carlton, he was almost up contesting the tap out, turned around and just launched 10 metres and put someone flat on their ass. Just smashed them. So for me, I even called it out today. I was like, Rayner! Norm Smith, Rayner! So that's my tip for that.
And he turned whoever he was next to in the car. Like, God, those flogs, I'm sick of them.
I was going nuts today down there. I got footage on YouTube, just me yelling.
Yeah, saw that.
Pepsi Max King to Wilmot, just going crazy today. But for last night, McGrath was it Fitzroy?
Yeah, we're at the Royal Derby.
For the Raw Deal podcast, the Brisbane Lions
Royal
podcast.
Derby,
yeah. So they asked McGrath about, hey, how does it feel to be not the most successful recent number 9 Lions player? Because Lachie Neale obviously, has a double Brownlow, same number. But yeah, good old McGrath. Talking about skin folds, failing skin folds. And he said, Lee Matthews said, you have to have under 60 skin fold collectively unless your name is Johnson.
As in Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
For explaining that for me. Jesse, you might like this because this is... I don't know. I personally think it looked really funny coming out of Fremantle's social media team when they're trying to claim Lachie Neale as look how far he's come. You know what I mean? He's forged a career in purple and now he's won 2 Brownlow medals. I thought that was really funny. What was your take on that?
Yeah, no, it's typical Fremantle. It is interesting, though, the last 2 dual Brownlow medalists were drafted by Fremantle, Fife and Neale. So, props to their recruiting team. They just got to do something about retaining players and not lose 5 to 7 each off-season. That would be a great start.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we've gone through 3 people so far. I'll leave myself to last. I want to collate as much data as possible. Jesse. Tip. First goal scorer and Norm Smith, please.
Cool. So my tip is Brisbane by 3 points. There's an interesting point about not wanting it to be a close grand final as a fan. Sometimes I've witnessed 2, 06 and 18, and the thing is, you forget that for 119 minutes out of 120, I had the worst time at that grand final. I hated every minute of it until Dom Shee kicked that goal. But I still think Brisbane by 3. First goal, I reckon Collingwood's going to get the jump, and I reckon it will be Mason Cox taking one of those annoying pack marks 30 metres out, going back, slotting it, and then strutting around like he's LeBron James. And then I do think Brisbane will win it, but De Goey, like I said, I'll double down on that prediction to be an absolute monster in the midfield. 35, 2 goals, 8 clearances, but it won't be enough. Lions will win.
So if he's doing all that, that's a lot. That is definitely worthy of a Norm Smith. Where does it fall apart for him?
Absolutely. Good question. It's hard to isolate where. I think Brisbane's scoring power will ultimately be the difference between the two sides. So even though De Goey's hitting the scoreboard and winning clearances, Brisbane will be winning their own clearances through Neil and like. And I think, they just have more weapons up forward, and without McStay, I think as well, from already a forward line that has struggled to kick winning scores this final series, that will be it. But like I said, I'm tipping a 3-point margin, so it's going to be very, very close.
Cool. Right. My tip. Now, heart is telling me Lions, right? Because I have nothing in my heart for Collingwood apart from sheer and pure hatred. So Brisbane, for me, to win by... I can't see you guys winning by an even margin. You're too inaccurate to do that. So it's going to be probably 7 points, maybe a goal and a behind, perhaps. I have the first goal scorer will be Lachie Neale. I think Lachie Neale will kick the first goal of...
Did he kick the goal this year?
Of the grand final. Yeah, I don't think he has, but I can see it coming because he's copped a lot of flack. It's unjustified. He didn't award himself the Brownlow medal. He got booed today in the parade from some nuffy Collingwood supporters, just continuing to prove why I dislike them. Stay classy, Collingwood fans. And so I'll probably say Neale for first goal scorer, and the Norm Smith will also be Lachie Neale because a goal-kicking midfielder in a grand final is probably too good to pass up. So I'm gonna double down on a sensational season for Lachie Neale.
Can I just say, I have been here for a day and a half. Collingwood supporters have been nothing but nice to me. Now, well, I think grown adults look at each other. You're wearing full Brisbane wanker kit, basically. Like I got the shorts, the polo, but they look at you and they go, yep, good on you. I look at them and say, good on you. But kids that hear everything at home, the most banter, the most flack I've been given in Victoria are young kids coming up to me going, boo, like to my face.
Yeah,
it's the kids. Yeah. They're harsh.
No, they're on the money. I'll give you my best tip for tomorrow, bud.
Maybe you just shafted them in Supercoach this year.
Yeah, I'd say
didn't told them the wrong trades or something, and they're like, I hate you. It's not a Brisbane thing; it's just a Supercoach thing.
Just this guy. Don't listen to me for trades this year. I was like, baby brain, horrible.
I was 600th, mate. Best bet tomorrow, and he's come in from about $5 into I think $3 or $2.90. But Max Holmes to win the grand final sprint.
Oh yes,
I'm all on that. So. Go, Max.
That's not too bad. I think they need to make it a bigger deal because it's good fun having these.
I was shocked that you could actually bet on that and the longest kick. Yeah. I was like, you beauty.
You can bet on flyers having to race up a wall. So I haven't looked. Don't take my word for it. I promise. I'm not a gambler.
I Melbourne Cup AFL Grand Final are the 2 times a year I will punt.
Yeah,
but I'm not betting tomorrow.
No, you can't.
No, you see, that's where you bet on Collingwood.
But they're only $1.75.
That's what you do.
No, they're only $1.75. I thought about it. If I put $1,000 on Collingwood to win, then if Brisbane lose, I've got $750 to get myself home.
Trip. Yeah.
Well, not paid for the trip, but
close.
But at $1.75, I'm not putting any money on Collingwood at all.
Viewers, Ben's views are entirely his own. Vancast does not endorse anything that he has to say here today. If you're going to gamble responsibly, know what it is that you are betting with, etc., etc. But, yes.
Sorry, continue. I don't bet. That's what I was saying.
Yes.
Swizz knows all the odds. Melbourne Cup Grand Final, the only 2 times I will dabble a year.
Sorry, disclaimer. Very well done. Cheers, Crispy. Really appreciate that.
Now, naturally, obviously, we've done a lot of talk on the AFL Grand Final because that's the big event.
Of course.
But there has been other footy stuff, and I don't know if you wanted us to touch on some of that, even though we do have the Brisbane man here in town. But probably the big ones was we had a bit of injury news through the week.
Oh, yes.
So footballers and what they get to in their own private time, I usually couldn't care less. But when one person in particular does his shoulder or collarbone, because he's got some drunken fun with some tackling and everything, but not just that, they all had a go at trying to pop it back in, which has done some significant damage. And talking on a fly on the wall, I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when Mills made that call to Horst Longmire.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine that reaction when he told him that?
No.
Do you reckon he called or did the old Warnie, oh, mum, get on to the coach? Best workers' comp claim, though. Technically at work function.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair.
For the everyday Joe.
For the everyday me. Yeah, I always use that joke. Jesse, you haven't experienced or heard of something like this at West Coast, have you?
Not quite as bad as this. I think wrestling with a teammate at a drunken, wind up at the end of a season is probably just about takes the cake. I do remember when we recruited Sharad Wellingham in 2013. He was our prize recruit. It's going to take us from being a top 4 chance to a premiership contender. We were actually, I think, at one point premiership favourites in that preseason. But he jumped off a trampoline and then I think did like a syndesmosis injury before preseason and missed more than half the year. So that one rings a bell. I'm sure there's been more than one, to be honest. I'm just struggling to think who, but the Sharad Wellingham one really stands out for me.
Wellingham kicks the goal. Sorry, I don't know. The beats, as you can see, I watch all of the commentary and it all just sticks in my head.
And it's not alone there, because I had somebody tell me this week that they just happened to be in Chapel Street after the Hawthorn Fremantle game, and some of the Fremantle players were enjoying their last game of the season and having a few frothies in Chapel, and may have some of the players ended up in shopping carts and being pushed down the middle of Chapel Street, which luckily for them didn't end up in the same situation that Callum Mills did. But yes, it's and we get it. They finish the season, they want to let off some steam, and no problems. But then you could just imagine, especially when you are that sportsman and you're that size and you're tackling each other or pushing each other down in shopping carts, the chances of things going wrong is times by 100.
Wrestling at any function is not a good idea, but I don't know, where's the worst situation you've ever found yourself where you're just like, I want to go home? Because I had this friend once, he had a houseboat for his 30th.
Nice.
You can't escape. And then after 6 hours on the drink, they want to start wrestling. And I'm like, dude, I don't know how to wrestle. I have no interest in wrestling, but you also can't get out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do have one. It's meant to be what happens on sports trip stays on sports trip. So, but I was at a particular sport club and there was a lot of drinking that day. We were probably maybe 12, 14 hours into. I think somebody said I had about 60 vodkas that day. So I was. This just give an example of where we were at. So. It got to the point where, people trying to throw things into each other's mouths and stuff. People like taking chips and trying to spit them into each other's mouth and so. So my mate had enough. He was just like, "This is it. I'm done." So we've gone the old. We're just going to walk and leave. The hotel apparently is like an hour and a half walk. So we're hammered, as I said, like 60 plus vodkas in, just walking down the beach, and my shoelace comes undone. Go and do my shoelace, turn around and go, oh, wow, that's our hotel. Lucky we kind of stop there, go inside, and lucky these hotels have TV screens where they have where the security cameras pick up the lobby and the swimming pool and stuff like that. So the guys all come back like an hour later, and there are a couple of them have passed out on the couch, and those couches have ended up in the swimming pool and on the Gold Coast beach, you name it and stuff. So, yeah, that was interesting.
Are you sure this happened and you're not just
no, I know
100%
that happened.
Of The Hangover?
No, this is, and I tell you what, and that's
it's not the roof.
And that's
not the roof. It's the
that's
beach.
mould, and there's plenty of other stories. And I know our viewers out there who've been involved in footy, cricket clubs, netball clubs, whatever. There's plenty of wild ones, which I won't obviously mention, but that was good fun more than anything.
Chris has got to go. Pies by 14, he says. Best of luck. I know I've given a lot of flack, and I don't really mean that you guys have good luck, but just as a sporting gesture, I guess to say, good luck. in quotation marks. Pies by 14, Norm Smith, Nick Dacos, he says, that's not too bad. If Collingwood had to get up, you'd imagine Nick Dacos would have got a lot of the pill, but that's not going to happen. Come on, Brisbane, go all the way, boys.
But they dominated Dacos at the Gabba. Different ground,
he
obviously.
stepped out.
But they were the first team that didn't try and lock and tag down the player specifically.
Yeah.
They tried to line people up on a 45-degree angle and kind of get in the way and stand between the ball and Dacos, so he couldn't become an option. So it wasn't a run with, it was more of a let's get our system in place and try and cut off the 45 and cut off the ankles and cut off their outlet to get to Dacos, which was the first team to do it.
Which I think is the right way to go, because Port tried to run with him and it just
You
didn't
can't
work
do
out.
it.
Yeah.
You can't.
Where was this analysis before when we were talking about the game? He's now bringing it in after we're talking about drinking and stuff like that.
drinking's gone.
Oh, it's,
this
so
was-
once the...
My cousin in St Kilda, this was...
Say no more.
Drink to thoughts ratio.
Say no more.
Very nice.
He put on Brisbane Carlton reruns, and we sat and drank whiskey talking about life. It's been 10 years since I've seen him, so
Fair enough.
this is not just me.
No,
Drink
fair.
responsibly, gamble even more responsibly.
Correct.
What's the time like where you are, Jesse? Is it drinking time yet, or are you like just woken up?
It's always drinking time.
I suppose it's always drinking.
It's always drinking time, yeah. It is. It's about 11:30 a.m. So give it 27 minutes. I'll probably-
Nice.
I won't be able to drink for grand final day. I'm getting up at like 4:45 a.m. But I'll go out that night to celebrate.
Are there any sports places for you where you got to watch it, or...
No, I'm gonna watch it through my various sources. I've got a setup that will allow me to watch the game, which is good. I'm just gonna wake up at 4:45 and. watch a bit of the
don't say
pregame.
it. Don't say it.
A geo unlocked VPN.
Something like
Steve
that.
from SDS Supercoach. Nice for Ben to take a break from wreaking havoc in Melbourne with his vlogs today.
Although, it's funny because I got spotted at the Gabba by a Port Adelaide fan, and then second time in my life, and I always tell the story because it's only happened twice in my life. No one knows who you are in Brisbane.
It wasn't in the bathroom, was it? I remember
That
happened.
spills.
it was.
Spills on YouTube. Bathroom, Gold Coast. That was Raoul and Anderson's preseason game. The first time we ever saw them, just to check them out. So here I am coming to Melbourne thinking I might finally get spotted. And I'm walking down St Kilda Street. Swizz knows this is a story. Walking down St Kilda Street, someone stops me in traffic. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happened. Someone's spotted me. Someone's noticed me. They've stopped me in traffic. Turns out I just dropped something. So stay humble. Stay
does
humble.
it revolve around... Yeah, stay humble.
Stay humble.
Do you know the best thing is? Imagine if before they said, you dropped something, it was like, oh yeah, do you want a photo or something?
Oh, that would have been...
I was like, yes, I am that guy.
At least they stopped you and didn't just take it and run off.
Yeah.
That happens in
Well,
Melbourne.
I wasn't in Collingwood or Victoria Park. It was St Kilda.
That's not much better.
I was going to say.
Is it not?
No, it's not.
Is it like
You are
now?
very lucky, actually, mate.
Been taking to him all the sites, St Kilda, Collingwood, Fitzroy.
They might have given you something in addition.
And
to that
we're heading down to Frankston too after that. So all the great places with Melbourne.
Are we going to expect you in Melbourne anytime soon, Jesse?
Perhaps. I've got a 2-year visa here in the UK, and I kind of want to see that out because I've been traveling a lot this year and want to do it all again next year. But maybe season 2025. Like I'm considering potentially relocating there just to do a bit of a stint in the heart of football culture. Like that would excite me. I would love to be in Melbourne.
Have you been convinced to attend more soccer games there now that you're over there?
Oh, I'm a Liverpool fan anyway, so I didn't take too much convincing. I went to United versus Liverpool at the start of last season, August last year. So that was pretty unreal. But I kind of want to see some of the lower league games. I live in a place called Macclesfield, and we're probably going to go see a local game. I don't even know what league they're in, but it's past the League Two, so we'll see.
What was that Wrexham thing? They need to get... where are you from again? Where are you staying right now? what was the name of the...
Macclesfield.
They need like a version for Macclesfield. They need to get like a Ryan Reynolds to come on, buy the local club, and all of a sudden have you feature on, because of your massive YouTube channel. Where can all of our amazing viewers find you, Jesse?
TrueFooty on YouTube. I do have an Instagram that doesn't get used a lot. That's at TrueFooty Official. There is a TikTok, TrueFooty, but those are honestly the platforms that I use the most, and I'm very YouTube focused. So you just find me on YouTube for the most part.
And you've been pumping out all of the content now and recently. Every time I look up on YouTube, you've got another video coming up. So you've been very busy this week. Obviously, you got much else still to come with the footy stuff?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, this is my job at the moment, up until I get a real one soon. So I've been doing 2 videos a day, but that's going to continue through the trade period and pretty much up to the draft, and then maybe have a little bit of a week or 2 after the draft, looking at next season. Then it's Christmas, and I'll probably take most of December and Jan off, and then back in Feb. So yeah, there's a little bit of life in the season left.
Crispy KFC is asking, TrueFooty Twitter when?
There is a Twitter that exists. I just don't like the app. I don't know. I'm actually not a big social media person for the most part. So Instagram is pretty much where you'll find me. But even then, I'm kind of just a lurker. I'm very YouTube focused, and I'm terrible at brand building. I should be doing much better than I am. But Twitter is probably a long way off yet.
And your tip for where West Coast is going to finish next year? I'm sorry to make you say this.
I can't tip us winning the spoon again. I think we've got to improve, but there's a long gap between us and who came third last, Hawthorn. There's a long gap there, and North Melbourne have just as much improvement, if not more, probably more than us. So we could win the spoon again, but I'll be pretty confident in betting bottom 4.
Very well. It's been awesome to have you on, Jesse. I speak for all of us here when we really appreciate your time, especially so early in the morning. Especially as well, Ben, nice to see you in the flesh. Hope you've been enjoying your stay in Victoria so far.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you. We gave a hug to each other on the way in. I see you guys normally through monitors, computer screens. Even Swizz has been nice enough to drive out and catch up with me a couple of times already. So, loving life in Melbourne. And the thing I like the most here, so obviously Brisbane born, live in Queensland, no one talks footy. I think that's why Chris and I got along so well, because we just wanted to talk footy all the time. Whereas we're just eating at a burger joint. What's it called?
We're the SE, in Collingwood with the old Hitachi trains up on the roof, 4th level. Worth checking out. It's a great venue.
But you have people talking footy behind, footy to the side. I love it.
Yeah.
Even just hearing stuff, or you catch conversations of people talking about Carlton, and I'm like, oi, we're here, we deserve to be here. Or just little bits and pieces. I'm sitting on a chair today just looking at my phone, all the footage I got on YouTube, and this lady comes up to me and goes, what are you putting money on the game tomorrow for? You're going to lose. Some old lady, she's like 75. I'm sitting on a park bench, not saying anything to anyone, just on my phone. And I had no idea what to say. I said, didn't you know Sportsbet paid him out early for the Lions? We've already got paid out for the win.
If you're going to gamble
Sorry.
responsibly.
Yeah, and Sportsbet's now in at $1.75 for Ben to get stabbed on this trip.
Hey, Collingwood people have been very nice up until tomorrow, 6 p.m. We'll see.
Absolutely. Swizz, it's been a pleasure as always.
Love it, mate. Love coming in and chatting footy.
100%. Jez?
Mate, I can talk footy all day.
Yeah,
You say that, but you really didn't have too much.
No, we could.
You got.
We got other people in.
The interstate people have their say, because they won't be on again.
Is this the 2022 Grand Final? I feel like it's over at half time. Have we done already?
Crispy KFC. $10 says she'll be on the pokies later in relation to your.
We might have to look that up.
You.
Big J, what's the world record for longest podcast going because I could do a 48-hour
wanna-
session.
Yeah, this guy.
Now let's save everyone and Jesse as well, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you check out TrueFooty. Make sure you check out Supercoach Insider. It's in a balance. We do all right. And please make sure you like the stream, share so that everyone can watch afterwards and laugh at how terrible my jokes have been. So on that note, guys, go Lions. Best of luck for tomorrow. If you're going to gamble responsibly. Stay safe and enjoy the football. We'll see you in the next one.
Catch ya.